What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about ranked grand races. This is a new feature for season 8, and I think a lot of people don't really understand how this mode works. So I reached out to IVT and I got an exclusive interview. So let's go through ranked grand races in depth. All right, let's go. All right, before I get into the interview part of this video, I'm just going to give you a brief breakdown on what ranked is and how it works. So basically, when you queue into grand races now, it is all ranked. There's a rank associated with it. You'll see it once you get into the menu. There's a schedule at the bottom that shows basically what the routes are and the upcoming modifiers for each of the different routes. And it gives you a timer. It shows you your rank, your rewards, what you can earn, all of that stuff. But it's all tied to your performance in the ranked mode. Now, mostly everything else stays the same, with the exception of a couple of little things that we discussed in the interview. So these are the most frequently asked questions that I got. There are some personal questions that I had going into this ranked mode, and a couple questions that I got from you guys, the community. All right, first I'm gonna let Nico introduce himself here.
Hey there, I'm Nicolas, community developer on the Crew Motor Fest. Thank you so much for the invitation, Militia. I'm really happy to answer some of your questions about this new ranked system.
Nico, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Let's get into the questions, man. This is important stuff that we need to figure out. Could you talk in specifics? What determines whether a player is going to lose or gain rank? Like, I understand that it's based off of your finishing position, but there are some other factors there. It's not as simple as like, if you finish 8th, you're gonna get this much RP, or if you finish 1st, you're gonna get this much RP. It's obviously a little bit more complicated than that. We've had some time to play it. And so can you go into some detail with, like, basically, how does it work? What are the specific factors that determine exactly how much RP you're going to get?
The algorithm is a bit complex, but I can tell you that the team that worked on it is really passionate about competitive gaming. I can't go into the details of the calculation, but multiple factors are considered when you finish a grand race. The first factor will be obviously your position at the end of the race. Your rank will also have an impact on your gains. The number of points you will win will decrease as you reach higher ranks. The last point is about your opponents. You will be in competition against each one of the other players in your lobby, meaning that if you finish before another player with a higher rank than yours, you will earn more points. Also, to be fair, the system does take into account your starting grid position.
That's kind of interesting. So basically, it takes into account where you start on the grid and then where you finish on the grid, your opponent's strength. It also takes into account what rank you are, and as you go up on the ladder, you're actually getting less points. And since it's all based off of where your position is at the end of the race, the time it takes to finish the race actually has no effect. So for example, if first place finishes at 7 minutes and you finish at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, that's going to be the same thing as if you finished at 7 minutes and 1 second. You're still in second place. You're still going to get the same number of points. So the timing doesn't matter. It's only the finishing position. All right, let's move on to matchmaking. So does the matchmaking actually change for season 8? Is there going to be any type of skill-based matchmaking or is there any changes, or are we just going with the exact same matchmaking that we had in season 7?
This is a really good question. And on season 8, the matchmaking does not evolve. We aim to keep really low timer queue, and this is why we keep this matchmaking at the moment. But we'll read all your message really careful.
Nice. So it sounds like you guys are open to changing the matchmaking system, but as of season 8, it's going to stay the same. So as players, I think it's our job to give the feedback. Do we want some sort of skill-based matchmaking, and how is that going to affect things going forward? That's something that remains to be seen, but it's our job to sort of give that feedback, and it sounds like they are willing and open to some suggestions on how matchmaking works, which really makes me excited because I really would like a split queue on this. I've talked about this before. I think splitting the queue between ranked and casual is definitely something that is important, and it could be as simple as just separating the matchmaking with a toggle. We already have a toggle for freeze rank. Maybe the players that freeze rank, there's a little note that says casual queue or something like that, where if you freeze your rank, you go into the casual queue, you unfreeze your rank, you stay in the regular ranked queue. I would appreciate that. I know the community probably would appreciate that. And yeah, anyway, it's just something to think about. All right, let's talk about a sort of touchy topic, and that is collisions. It's important, I think, to realize that collisions have a major effect on the racing, positive or negative. And some people like collisions and some don't. What are you guys doing about collisions, specifically rammers and griefers? And, you know, with collisions on, it sort of makes the races a little bit more unpredictable, a little bit more RNG. Are you guys open to changing collisions? Is there a no collisions possibility? Like, what are we talking about in terms of collisions going forward in the grand races?
Collisions are in the DNA of Grand Race, so we won't remove them aside from a special modifier, for example. However, we'll keep a close look at the griefers and uncompetitive behaviors. We'll do our best to take measures to ensure the most enjoyable experience for everyone.
Nice. So basically, you're open to taking measures against griefers, which I appreciate. I don't see that much griefing going on. I don't think it's intentional at this moment. Maybe later on in the season when someone gets their rank and they just freeze at Legend or Platinum or whatever, and they just decide to go in and start griefing, maybe we'll see some increase in grief activity. But for right now, it doesn't seem like we actually have a lot of griefing. What happens from my perspective is that the beginning of the race is very complicated. It's very traffic heavy and people are just bumping into each other trying to get to the front. Once the race spreads out a little bit, it seems like it's a little bit less, and you might have a one-on-one battle in which someone is ramming, something like that. So I'm actually happy that you're open to taking action against griefing in the future. I would suggest maybe taking a look at the dynamic collision model and figure out how to make that work better and make it a more enjoyable experience for people who just want to race cleanly and competitively. All right, next let's talk about crewing together, because I think this is a topic specifically amongst the casual audience. They see sort of these teams where people have, you know, the same gamer tag or the same prefix crew tag that they have, and they just like assume that people are working together, which a lot of times they are. And I'm wondering if there's any precautions, or if you're willing to take any precautions against people crewing together, using slipstream together. What's the general feeling around crewing together now that ranked is a thing and grand racing is not necessarily like a casual experience now?
Just like in other game modes, we encourage players to play in a crew, and we haven't planned to put any penalties for players crewing in this competitive mode.
Okay, fair enough. You're encouraging crew play. You've got the crew finder that just got added with Season 8, so you guys heard it. Get into crews and try to play together. Now, that doesn't mean a solo player is going to have a disadvantage. I mean, I play on stream with people who are very competitive, and I'm crewing by myself. We're not working together to try to get a better, higher position. We're just playing. We're just racing. So it's not like solo play is completely out, but they do encourage people to play as a crew. All right, the freeze unfreeze button is something that is sort of interesting to me. This was a question that I sort of brought to the table. I understand what it does. It basically freezes your rank. So what was the thought process behind it? What was the actual intended purpose? Because I think some people see it as like a way to grief people. Like you can just freeze your rank, not have any repercussions for what you're doing in the race, and then you can just go out and ruin other people's races. In addition to that, you can't really see who's frozen and who's unfrozen. So what was the idea behind freezing your rank?
We don't want to force players into competitive play every time they launch a grand race. We can see that some of our players aren't interested in grading the leaderboard or climbing the ranks. And maybe sometimes you may also want to try a new vehicle or to find what's the best one fitting your playstyle. That's why we want to give everyone the opportunity to launch a grand race without having the feeling to try hard every single race. And obviously, that's why you can freeze and unfreeze as many times as you want.
Good to know. You can freeze and unfreeze as much as you want throughout the season, and I totally get it. You just want to be able to provide a casual experience for someone who wants to race casually. I still think though, and I've said this on stream, I still think we're going to have maybe a slight issue with the actual experience of the casual player. Like, yes, their rank points are not going to be affected and they don't necessarily have to try hard, but other people are trying hard, and that definitely affects the experience still, which is why I'm still pushing for split queues. But let's move on. Let's talk about rewards for a second. When do we get the rewards? How do the rewards work? Give me some breakdown.
All the rewards are given immediately when you reach a new rank.
Fair enough. You heard it. As soon as you get to that rank, you get new rewards. What about people who decide to quit the race early? Are they going to get any penalties? And, you know, how does that work? What if someone just disconnects? What if their PC shuts down or their console freezes or something? Like, how does the penalty system work in general? Who gets penalized and who doesn't? Do you get penalized for leaving in the lobby? Like if you're just selecting your cars and you decide to leave, are you going to get a penalty for that?
There will be penalties for the players who quit. And each time you quit a grand race, when you leave it, you will lose ranked points, even if it's an online disconnection. You will lose points only if you leave a race, but if you are leaving during the lobby, there will be no penalties.
Okay, fair enough. But the disconnection still bugs me a little bit because I do get game crashes pretty frequently. Anyways, let's move on to the next topic, which is competitive modes in general. So I'm a big proponent of being competitive, PvP focused. My channel is all about getting faster, going faster. And so I'm curious, are we to expect more competitive things in the future? Like, is competition a sort of a new focus for the studio? Are you guys going to be working on new competitive modes with each season? Are you going to be updating grand races each season? Like, how does it work? Basically, what's the temperature inside the studio here when it comes to competition?
To be honest, it's a bit too early to talk about more competitive features or mods at the moment, as we just released this new one. But we'll check really carefully how this new ranked mode is received by the players and the community. And I don't know if we'll update Grand Race for each update, but this is definitely one of our goals to improve this game mode.
Awesome. So you guys are going to be focusing on ranked grand races and how to improve that going forward, as opposed to introducing new competitive features. That's fair enough as well. All right, let's move on to a couple of topics that I think the community is very interested in, and that is slipstream and ghosted starts. These are topics that we've talked about quite a bit throughout the couple of years that the Crew Motorfest has been out. Where are you guys at with it? Are you discussing it? Is it something that you're open to? Give me, what are your thoughts on both slipstream and ghosted starts?
So we are aware of these two topics and we discuss them regularly. But from now we are focusing on other aspects of the game and we prefer to take our time to think about it, as changing this will definitely impact the vision of the Grand Race and how they feel. So these topics aren't close at all, but they are not in the pipeline right now.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that you guys revisit the slipstream topic if possible sooner than later. I think slipstream is one of the most impactful things in the grand races and it should be looked at. Ghosted starts, again, is really impactful to the overall experience of the game. And now that the casual experience really is kind of different, you can't really play grand races without having this sort of intensified feeling here at the start of the races. And so I think that you should definitely look at that sooner than later. Now, there was one question that I asked after the fact. We weren't able to get an actual video answer from them, but this is a question that the competitive community specifically is very interested in, and that is, there are massive skill gaps in the Crew Motorfest. The top of Legend is going to be much better than the bottom of Legend, if that makes sense, even though there's not really a top and a bottom. But the most skilled players are going to see a huge gap to the person who just squeaks into Legend. So I think that's important to sort of highlight the top players in some respects. Basically, are you open to having more ranks in the future when it comes to this ranked mode, to not only highlight the best players, but also to show the skill gaps that are here in Motorfest, and also to give players more things to play for and more ranks to climb through? And the answer that I got was, our team is completely aware of that, and they have gathered and analyzed data from many grand races, particularly focusing on the top players. To give you a clearer idea, we balance the ranking system by keeping this in mind. This means that the difference between the top players will be visible. But you can be sure we're keeping a close eye on this ranked mode during Season 8 and beyond, and we're entirely open to making changes based on the community feedback. That is probably the best answer we could have gotten, because this means that they're willing to make changes going forward. And like I've said so many times before in other videos, this feels like just the start of ranked mode. Is it going to be perfect right at the beginning? No. Is it going to be something that maybe we find a little bit interesting, but it needs some help? Maybe. So they're willing to make changes. They're not hard set on anything, it seems like. And I think that's a good thing going forward. Now, how much time is it going to take? That obviously we don't know, but we want them to make some changes, and the only way to do that is to give them proper feedback. Nico, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you for doing this, and I know it's a huge effort, and I just feel very privileged and thankful that you were able to put this together for me.
Thank you so much again for your questions. This is the first time I'm doing this. We are doing this with the studio, but we really want to be transparent with this ranked mode. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on our socials. We'll do our best to answer you. See you later.
And to everyone who decided to click on this video, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or any feedback for IVT, please leave it in the comments of this video. I know for sure they're probably going to watch this one, and I appreciate you guys. So I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.